So, good morning and welcome to Havant Borough Council's Economic Development and Regeneration webinar. We are recording, and I know when people join, your cameras and mics should be off. The chat function is open though, and is being monitored. So we'll get going and admit people as they come in. So this is the for Havant Borough Council, the end of the Portsmouth and South Coast Business Week. For us, this has been about really heavily looking at one of the I's. There were 4 I's as part of the Business Week, which was inform, inspire, invest, and interact. We've done our interaction as part of the open doors, where the team went out and visited lots of businesses and had conversations about our offer. Today, it's going to be a lot of informing and hopefully inspiring. We've got some wonderful items to talk about, which the team will do. And speaking of the team, I'm going to introduce everybody now, so you can give us a wave, say hello. But with us today, we've got a guest speaker as well, which is Andy Pringle from Inky Hive. He'll be talking about the offer we've commissioned later on. So thank you for joining us, Andy. Much appreciated. We've also got, I don't think I can call you a guest speaker, Stuart, because you're part of Regeneration and we sit, in the same room. But Stuart's here to talk about regeneration and give a bit of an overview of, a case study with the master plan. But our economic development team are here in force. So we've got Hannah Haynes, the Economic Development Officer. Say hello. And then we have the Youth Hub team. So we've got Nancy and Frankie joining us online as well. Thank you very much. And then we have the Programme Manager from Link Up Lee Park, Katie Howard. Thank you. And then keeping us all together and taking us through the morning with the IT extraordinaire, Alana. A wave. Thank you very much. Right. Okay. So we're going to go through the agenda now. We're going to tell you what we're going to cover for the day, and then we'll kick into it proper, where I'll start walking us through the offer. So if we can go to the next slide, please, Alana. Thank you. So I'm going to introduce economic development, give a few stats, but I'll talk a little bit more about some of the items in there as well. Stuart's going to talk about regeneration, give us an introduction. And then we're going to move on to the job matching service, our youth employment scheme, which is nicely named YESH. We have an amazing event called the Reverse Recruitment, which we'll give some information on. We're going to talk a bit about some of our business as usual, which is our sector-based work academies or SWAPs. We're going to give a little bit of information about our Bowhurst Impact tool, some exciting things in there. And then obviously Andy will walk us through the Inky Hive offer and how he's working with local businesses. We've got the Havant Business Partnership, our large networking event, and we've got that coming up. I'm not going to talk too much about that now, but really excited to tell you about that. And then how do we communicate with everybody and put this all in one place? So our business newsletters. So we'll finish on that and close. And I think if you have any questions as we go along, please just put something in the chat and we'll address it as we go. So next slide, please. So the economic development offer. When we put this together back in June, it was how do we provide a quality service for people, and particularly businesses operating in the borough. We started off sort of understanding that there needs to be networking. People have a real appetite for connecting with their supply chains, with local companies, because you don't know what you don't know until it's there in front of you. So we do have a Havant Business Partnership, but we're also identifying lots of other local networking groups and promoting those and attending to talk about what we can do, but also enabling others who operate in that space to get as much engagement as possible. We're also talking with, this is an area we work quite closely with Regeneration around our high streets, with our property team around premises. So we want to be able to signpost to businesses either looking to move into the borough to trade, what's available. We also have our amazing Freeport Dunsbury site, which is quite a unique offer at the moment within the Solent Freeport. So we spend a lot of time talking about the Dunsbury site and the amazing facilities there. You're going to hear a lot about skills throughout today. You can't have an economy without skills, and we've got some really great stuff coming up. So again, I'm going to skip that. In terms of finance, Bowhurst helps us here, as does InkyHive. Lots of business at the moment are wanting to know more about how they access finance and grants. So we spend a lot of time with businesses talking about the best route there. And then overall business support. And although Andy's here from InkyHive, a lot of the things we commission are around helping people grow, helping people stay in business, and that's working with some of our regional partners, which is what the globe there is all about. There's lots of regional collaboration, and we tend to share a lot of information about what's happening across the country. Is there updated regulations people need to know about? So again, we'll go back to the newsletter as to why that's so important. But it's all about communication and trying to enable businesses to stay ahead of the curve. So next slide, please, Alana. So I'm conscious that obviously all of the good stuff is coming after this. I just wanted to sort of give an example as to, I've said that's what we do, and that is our business as usual. And so far, outside of the Youth Hub, which works predominantly with 16 to 24-year-olds, and a lot of them, each month, the caseloads the guys have are quite intense. As part of our economic development offer, we've engaged with 213 young people since, I think it's between September and January. We've had 45 interactions with 25 years plus. We've had 51 interactions or events with training providers. We talk about that sector-based work academy, working with people to provide training related to business. We then had over 6,000 business engagements across all of our media and our physical activity as well. So we feel like we're really trying to get the message out. We can always improve on that, which is why we use the South Coast Business Week to really interact with businesses to make sure that they understood how best to engage with us. We've also had, through these events, we've had 49 of those events, and of those, we've had 70 exhibitors come along as well. So there's been an awful lot happening in such a short period of time. But I just want to reiterate, when the guys around economic development talk about what's happening, talk about later on in the slides, this is on top of this. So we've already got a lot of happening. There's loads more. So we're really excited to have you on the call watching this video, because it's going to outline how to engage with us. So I'm going to hand over now to Stuart. So Alana, next slide, please. Stuart from Regeneration. Thanks.
Morning all. Stuart Palmer. I'm the Regeneration Manager here at Havant Borough Council. Hope you can hear me clearly, and apologies if there is an echo. So I just wanted to first talk about sort of the wider context of regeneration, and I'm not sure how familiar you all may be with the corporate priorities at Havant Borough Council, but if you have a look at our corporate priorities, you'll find that there's quite a large regeneration focus. That being said, regeneration isn't just about bringing forward residential developments, it's about social and economic growth and development. Unfortunately, I don't have enough time today to talk through all the work we're doing on the borough, because there's many sort of key target areas. So I thought it'd be really useful just to talk about Waterloo and just focus down one case study, talk about the work we're doing there, and how it might relate to your business or spark some ideas. Next slide, please. So this presentation has been taken and adapted from a community presentation that we did on Wednesday. It's been shortened just to try and focus down. But the consultation that's taken place today drew a lot of questions from the public and sort of target areas, and some of those challenges I'm going to discuss just at the beginning, just to let you know how we're addressing those. So some of the challenges we've got in Waterloo Town Centre is that we don't own a lot of land. We own a couple of car parks there, but apart from that, most of the land holdings are with institutional investors, or private landholders. So we have to work with these people in order to improve the town and then make changes. And a lot of that will come back to business. How can we increase land values? How can we attract investors and improve the town centre? What is it we can do as a council to encourage that? Obviously, the High Street in Waterlooville is owned by Hampshire County Council. We've got a great working relationship with them. But any sort of public realm improvements or changes we want to make, we have to run and work with those hand in hand to bring forward. Next slide, please. Before I get onto this one, I'll just talk about Waterlooville in the sort of a wider context as well. Waterlooville suffered from urban decline, urban decay, as many high streets have up and down the country. Many reasons for this: changing shopping habits, but it's not it's not the end of the story. There are things we can do to try and turn that around, encourage people to come back to the high street and use it. It might just have to be used in a different way. So by starting with the public and seeing, well, why aren't they using the high street? It's really important, which is why we sort of talk to the public about, what's important to you and how do we target those. One of those things that came through initially was about the sort of general aesthetic of the high street, and street cleansing was sort of a key topic. So that was a quick win. We could target that quite quickly, get on top of our contractors and respond to that straight away. So if you've been to Waterloo, if you're familiar with the area, you should have seen a notable improvement in sort of the general street cleanliness and upkeep. So that's why we included this slide, just to talk to some of those specifics, but we'll move on from this for this stakeholder group. Next slide, please. However, if you are a trader in Waterlooville or anywhere in the borough and you do have an issue that you don't think has been addressed, if it hasn't been tackled, there's a link on our website you can go to that will go straight through, raise a ticket to our contractor, and there's KPIs attached, so they'll have to address that. There's also a telephone number if you don't want to log on there, but if there's something affecting your business specifically, if you are trading locally, just be mindful that there's a contact route there you can go through and we will tackle it. Next slide, please. This was another sort of key topic that came up from the public, and it was about traffic movements through Wellington Retail Park and concerns there. So I won't talk about this one too much, but Havant Borough Council are working with Hampshire County Council and the retail park owner to address those issues that have been raised and see what can be done to help improve flow of traffic and increase the usage of the site. Next slide, please. Some small scale interventions we can make on the high street, things such as parklets or the public realm improvements. So we are going through a master plan process which looks at everything from connectivity to the site. It should be adopted in SPD, so it makes recommendations to or provides an evidence base for planning on developments that should come forward. But there are some stuff we can do as a council. Part of that aesthetic that's been raised as a concern by the public and business owners is to do with the sort of the general area outside the shops and the high street. So there's plans in place to deliver a coherent plan. At the minute it looks like it's emerging as a linear park, and part of that would be made up of small parklets which allow for outside dining, more greenery, and just a general improved public realm that encourages people to dwell and should encourage increased footfall in the town centre. We do have funds allocated already to do some of these works. I'm just waiting for our landscape architects and the master planners landscape architects to link up so we can agree what that looks like going forward. But it's all based on public feedback. Next slide, please. Other things we can do as a quick win is sort of add some more colour back into the town centre. So there's an initiative being run to produce banners. These ones relate to specifically to Waterlooville. There's a lot of history and heritage in Waterlooville people might not be aware of. So we're trying to sort of draw people in, do a bit of a heritage trail. These banners sort of concept art designs, but there will be a QR code as well, which once you scan will take you to a site that explains a bit more about that individual banner who's on it, why is it important to Waterloo, why is it important to the people there. We're hoping that will help drive sort of culture and interest in the area that way as well. It's all about pride in place and making it an interesting place to visit. Next slide, please. We're also running a vacant shop scheme in Waterlooville. So we're in the final stages at the minute, but we're offering grant funding for sort of capital fit out of vacant shop units. So that grants are available subject to a successful business plan to take up vacant units, and we can help with that. This current one's closed, but we'll be relaunching shortly. So if you're on the call and you're thinking about opening a business and Waterlooville might be of interest, please come and check out the vacant shop scheme and see if you're eligible for some grant funding. We're also going to be launching a vacant shop scheme in Lee Park as well. Next slide, please. So why do we need a master plan? The master plan is important, like I said, for planning and the future sort of vision for Waterloo and what it could become. It's also needed for us to obtain grant funding from central government. It acts as a baseline, as something we can justify our acquisitions or initiatives on. It provides that evidence base, which is why we're going through this process. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. So what have we done so far? What happens next, and how can you get involved? I'm just going to fire through these really quickly. There's quite a few slides here. Next slide, please. So we started with community-led research. This took the form of walking tours with public, businesses, members, sort of key stakeholders of Waterlooville. We hosted many walking tours over a period of a week. Following on from that, we've had the Festival of Ideas. That was workshops, targeted workshops on key themes that were emerging from the walking tours. We had specialists from Hampshire County Council, our health partners, HBC officers, along with residents and local businesses, all inputting, sharing their ideas about what the future of the town should look like, how can we help improve it, you know, what are the target areas we need to focus on. And phase 3, which hasn't happened yet, is in March 2024. It's actually the 14th, 15th and 16th of March. So if you are able to attend in Waterlooville, we've taken over a vacant shop scheme, a vacant shop. I'll talk to that in a moment, but you're welcome to come down and see the feedback that's been collated from all those stakeholders and how the master plan's shaping up. Next slide, please. So this is just some images from the walk-in tours. Next slide, please. So we also mapped the walking tours, so we could see where the key routes were. People were asked, you know, there's no agenda. It's just take us to what's important to you. Where's working well, where's not working well, and then we mapped the routes people took, so we could see where those key connections to the wider area were. This is important because it helps us focus on improvements into the gateways into Waterlooville, and help make improvements, make it more attractive. Next slide, please. This is one of the outputs from the walking tours. It identified things that were working and weren't working. Next slide, please. And we also hosted a digital walking tour, which took a bit of a different flavour. It allowed us to cover a bit more of a wider area, but also identified what was important to the people using the town centre. Not just people using it currently, but people that could be using it that aren't. How do we attract those people into the town? How do we help grow the footfall in that area? Next slide, please. We engaged lots of different stakeholders, including young people, because they're the future of the high street. So we kind of went out to try and capture as many different views as we can, different demographics, and get to those hard to reach groups. So I'll skip through these quite quickly. Next slide. This is the Women's Institute. Next slide, please. And this was the vacant shop that we took over to host the sort of workshops. We thought it's important to have a presence on the high street. and show, this was a unit that was shuttered up, and now it's become a sort of hive of activity, drawing people in. Next slide, please. This is what's interesting about the shop front is it will be now, as of Wednesday, where the feedback event will be as well. So it's on the high street in Waterlooville. Look out for that branding, and it'll be a drop in so you can see where we're at. Next slide, please. These are just some images of some of the work that went on during those workshops. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So at the Festival Ideas, we've taken the output from the walking tours, shared that on the walls to provide discussion points as well, just to capture further feedback, which is, as you can see here, people are talking about the first phase and what came through on that. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Just keep skipping through these ones, I think. It's just to give a flavour of the level of engagement that went through. Yeah. Next slide. So these were experts that were brought in from the multidisciplinary design teams. We had planning experts, we had commercial experts, we had people going out and reaching out to local businesses. So we had a designated officer go out and talk to all the local business about what they wanted to see, how we can improve the area and help support their business. And these were some of the outputs. So this was blocks and trees that were provided, and we had sort of washable spray paint so that people could input into designs into what they'd like to see the future public realm, and if what does that look like, how can it best be used. Next slide, please. As some concept art that came through from the day, so it was really responsive. It was capturing people's ideas and then creating concepts with them at the time, and all that information is being pulled together into the master plan. We're in a process now where the detailed work's being done, so there's workshops taking place directly with specialists in the authority and outside, and obviously commercial discussions with land owners taking place that will all help shape the final master plan. Next slide, please. And again. Yep, keep going. I think we'll just skip through these. Might have gone overkill on the images, but I kind of wanted to give a flavour for how much engagement has taken place and how we are listening. We're here to listen and respond to the needs and wants of the community. Next slide. This is some of the sort of work that's coming through. So it talks to the key components. The outline you can see there was the targeted red line for the master plan area. Obviously, we've gone a bit wider than that to look at catchment areas and engage with people further afield to see, what's being provided, how are people travelling to the area, and what would draw them in. But this was the red line that was developed. Next slide, please. There's a concept coming through about it being a city wall. Obviously, this particular town centre is covered on multiple sides by big, busy roads, which is a bit of a barrier to people coming into the site, but also to the retail park. So there's a concept coming through that it's a bit like a walled city. Next slide. And these are the key sort of access points, with some linking to major development areas, other to residential areas, and others to further retail. Next slide, please. And a crossroads. The architect that was delivering this at the time talked to sort of differing quarters, about an entertainment quarter, a residential quarter, and a community and social element to it as well, and how the master plan can be used to encourage business development and growth in those key areas, which should, if it continues to come through, be adopted by planning, and will help encourage, and we will also help to target that sort of business development and growth in those particular areas. Next slide, please. Again. This one was a little bit more talking to what those areas could look like. obviously food and drink at one side and residential, and how some of the connections through to the church and greening could take place. The sort of green dots there are greening initiatives, but certainly some of these ideas coming through can be targeted and developed out by the council. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Some of the feedback you might be interested in, this is sort of some of the key messages coming through. People ask, short surveys, what 3 things about Waterloo Town Centre would you like to take with you into the future? And these are sort of the key things coming through. So civic and public buildings, small town vibe, so festivals, independent shops, markets, charity events, access and parking. So these sort of key themes we can help support. What's interesting is when we started down this process and you talk to the public, they automatically go to individual brands they'd like to see on the high street, and focus on retail. Whereas what we're seeing now is that after you've sat down with people and explored their ideas and what they want the future of the town to be, you can see there's a sort of change in use there. It's more about a place where people can dwell and access different services. Next slide, please. What 3 things, Waterloo Town Centre would you like to leave behind in the past? Obviously, key symptoms from urban decline. Next slide, please. And what would transform your life? So once again, green spaces coming through, better connections and access, and an attractive community for locals. I think by targeting sort of health, social, entertainment uses in the town centre and hosting events and festivals and encouraging that kind of growth will also support the already trading businesses there and encourage further retail development. So I think they all go hand in hand. Next slide, please. So what happens next? Yeah, as I said, the team are scribbling away at the minute, working hard on the detail. But on the 14th, 15th, and 16th of March, there'll be a gallery to feedback to everyone on what work progress has been made to date. And it'll be an outline basically of the master plan, so there shouldn't be any surprise in the master plan if you can attend that event. There's also a report on quick wins and targeted initiatives the council can do. So we will be exploring that and making some changes. So you should see some things happening on the ground relatively quickly once this has been published. Next slide, please. So the council has a webpage with Citizens Lab on it, which allows you to comment on concepts and ideas. So if you're a local business and you want to have input into this, it's not too late. You can go on there and make comments and input into the process. That's the web link down below there. Next slide, please. And that's the address if you're watching this later and you want to attend the event. Next slide, please. That's it. I tried to keep that as quick as I could. Hopefully I didn't run over too much.
Thank you very much, Stuart. Really appreciate you outlining the plans for Waterlooville. I think for businesses out there, and their staff, that experience, what happens in your diet. It's not just about your trading environment. It's also about what your employees do in their spare time as well. So having, an attractive experience on the high street is also important. So it's really great to see some of the work happening there. Thank you. So we're going to move on to the job matching service. Very exciting stuff. So over to Nancy. Thank you.
Yes. Hi. Yes, I'm Nancy. Nice to see you all. So today I'm going to talk about the job matching service. So we understand that businesses are currently struggling with efficient recruitment. So the job matching service is a free service provided by Havant Borough Council to provide businesses with ready-made pools of candidates. We're partnered with DWP and adult training providers so that we're able to upskill clients to make them work ready. By providing your job description, we can promote the role to our candidates. We have trained work coaches that can then shortlist a group for you to interview. So it's going to save you time and efficiency with that process. You'll then receive lists of cover letters and CVs for the selected group that have been matched to your job description. And once agreed upon, a work coach can arrange interviews with you, whether that be kind of on site at your location or if that's at the job service office. So after a candidate's been selected, so after the interview process has been run through, what will then happen is that a work coach will continue to work with you in your business as well as your new employee. So we can support with kind of difficult conversations. We can go out on workplace visits. And what we're trying to do is support with retention of recruitment, as we know how important that is as well. So most candidates we have are prepared and ready for entry-level roles. However, we do have a group of candidates with specific sectors. So whether this be through previous employment, apprenticeship and training, there's lots of a variety. So it's always worth inquiring to see if we can support you with your job. So all of our candidates are from the local area. And yes, so I'm going to pass you now to my colleague Katie, who is going to discuss a scheme that's working very closely with the job matching service.
Thanks, Nancy. Good morning, everyone. So I am Katie. I'm one of the officers on the economic development team, and I will be talking about a pilot scheme that the programme I oversee called Lincoln Park is currently funding in its initial stages before the larger scale rollout that we will see from April onwards. As Nancy mentioned, this is definitely a scheme that sits quite nicely with our job matching service, in particular with our youth employment hub, as we will be working with those younger candidates to connect them with the local businesses in our area. The scheme is called Youth Employment Scheme Havant, also better known as what James has mentioned, YESH, or Yes Havant, and it's is a funding programme for businesses to offer a 6-month paid work placement to 18 to 24-year-olds accessing Havant's Youth Employment Hub. In the pilot scheme, it is currently focusing on the 18 to 24-year-olds that they serve from the Lee Park area, but as it rolls out, it will be spread across all of our local residents in Havant. What we're looking for, and I would say at the core of what this programme is trying to provide, is inspired by the Kickstart programme. So for some of you who are on the call, you might need a little reminder, or you may have never heard of it. The Kickstart programme was something that was rolled out by government to support both businesses with their recruitment challenges post-pandemic, as well as upskill our younger workforce due to the setbacks that they experienced during the pandemic. And what we're wanting to do is focus on this at a local or more place-based level. So it's allowing businesses, especially hearing from our own businesses about their recruitment challenges or their stretch of their current employees, to fill some gaps and provide experience to our 18 to 24-year-olds. But at the core, or I could say the trajectory of what the council is trying to achieve, is recognising all the work that they're doing and how this is impacting the health of our residents now and in the future. And as an economic development team, we want to play a role in that and how the economy in our local area can do just that. So we're thinking about the factors that feed into our local residents and the quality of life that they have as they continue forward and age and become adults in our local area. So what our pilot scheme is hopefully going to learn is a bit of rapid learning around our processes and experience for businesses and young people, but it's also thinking about how we can encourage our employers to offer alternative ways of recruitment and to really provide an inclusive experience for all of our local residents. Because it's a 6-month paid work placement, that does mean that there's going to be quality onboarding, quality induction process, and a mentorship opportunity that we are requesting employers to offer so that our young people are supported in the transitions and big transitions of their life, so that there's sustainability and retention that Nancy also mentioned when she talked about our job matching service. We want to meet fair pay, so we are funding at national living wage for all of our employers, and we're looking for meaningful quality experience for these young people, either to sustain employment following that 6-month placement or as they move into the next phase of their employment, their education or training experience. It means that it's something really great to see on their CVs. The current sectors that are involved, which is quite exciting in these placement schemes, we are offering 4 placements to organisations in public service, in leisure and hospitality, which are all great entry-level roles for these young candidates to move into. As I mentioned, we're going to rapidly learn so that we can ensure that the best experience is then provided to businesses as well as our young people when the scheme reopens for application submission from April 2024. It is to make those aware on the call that if this is something you're interested in, which I would really encourage you to take part in, is that we already do have a waiting list for businesses. So when we circulate the presentation and any additional resources from this webinar, we'll ensure that the employer guide is attached so that you can submit an application or you can respond by asking us any questions and we can give some support. What I'm going to do is hand back over to Nancy now, because this pilot scheme is nothing without our youth hub, and we are offering a really exciting event coming up in March that will feed nicely into this. So back over to you, Nancy. Thanks.
Thank you, Katie. Yes, so we are holding an event called Reverse Recruitment. So this was designed directly from feedback from the clients that we work with that shared they wanted to meet employers in a relaxed, inclusive environment. So what it does is it takes the element of job fairs, which can often take up a lot of time for businesses, and it allows them to meet potential candidates quickly. So businesses can drop into the Front Lawn Community Hub from 10 to 12 on Tuesday the 19th of March, where you can go speak to candidates, view applications, and take away any CVs and information that you would find useful. Our candidates will have a range of experience and skills looking for jobs and or apprenticeships in different sectors. Reverse Recruitment has also taken some feedback we've received about inclusive employment to make sure that we've designed a bit of a platform for this, and this is our showcase. So all of our candidates are from the local Havant and surrounding areas. To reserve your space, please email the linkuphub@havant.gov.uk email. And I will also be putting a link into the chat towards the end of this presentation to our Eventbrite event for it. So yeah, we'd love to see everyone there.
Thanks, Nancy. Good morning, I'm Hannah, another one of the officers from the Economic Development team. I'm going to be talking to you this morning a bit about how we do prepare our candidates to be ready for your roles in your businesses. And one of the ways we do this is through collaborating with our local job centres and training providers to run swaps. SWAPs stand for Sector-Based Work Academy programmes, and these are designed to train your future workforce using areas that you'll find useful in businesses to recruit. So you can utilise this alongside our job matching process, our Yes Haven't scheme, or any recruitment process that you're going for where you're looking for suitable, committed candidates for your new roles. SWAPs are made up of 3 main components. They are at their core pre-employability training, matching the needs of your sector. That's the first part. Secondly, they can offer a work experience placement, which can allow you to meet your candidates in real time, see how they fit into your workforce, and give them the opportunity to gain skills on the job. And thirdly, you will offer a guaranteed interview at the end or support for them to move forward into employment. And this allows you to interview people that you've already had an experience of on your work experience or getting involved in the swap process. All of this is completely flexible and can be tailored to your business needs. So if you cannot commit to all 3 components, it's definitely still worth getting in touch and seeing if a swap is a suitable training course for you to meet new candidates. The reasons why we would advocate people to include swaps in their recruitment process is this reduces the risk with new employees. So it allows new employees to have an experience with you and see if the business is right for them. And it also allows you to do the reverse and see if they're the right fit for your business. It's really positive publicity for your business as well. It's incorporated in your social responsibilities, allowing you to connect with the local community, training providers and job centres, and give back to your local area. It will develop the right skills and training pathways for the candidates that are suitable for you. And finally, it will check the candidate's suitability as you'll get to know them along the process of the swap course. We have run swaps locally with Job Centre and local training providers delivering these in a range of different areas. I've listed some on the screen that have been successful and have had job outcomes: health and social care, childcare and education, warehouse, retail and hospitality, sometimes badged as customer service to give a more overall sector. So if your desired sector isn't listed here, don't worry. Do get in touch to see if there is something that we can develop with our partners to support you. I have popped a link on this slide that would give you more information on the Sector-Based Work Academy programme generally from a government level. We offer a facilitating role here, so please do get in touch to find out more.
Amazing, thank you, Hannah. I think what we should say is when Hannah said that we put these on, it's also for businesses really easy to interact with. There's so many good things that happen, but it's an out of the box solution, so it's very easy to work with. The Bowhurst Impact Tool. I do feel after listening to all the exciting announcements and everything, this one might be a bit of a. If you're into data, brilliant. If you're not, then I'll be quick. But essentially, we've invested through our partners, like people like Hampshire County Council. We get a decent rate by taking out a subscription with the Bowhurst Impact Tool. I'm not going to dwell on this, but essentially, this is how we try and understand what's happening across the borough. Across 2023, we've had a positive 162 business changes. So we've got more businesses in 24 than we did at the beginning of 23. We're able to identify companies that are reporting employee growth as well. Those who are active in the green economy, which is really hot at the moment, trying to understand how we might do some learning. We can identify local companies to better inform us. Also, we're able to see who's receiving investment and where from as well, and that helps us communicate better where we think there are opportunities. Of those people receiving investment, I think there was over £2 million worth received, and 3 of those companies, it was the first time they'd ever received investment. So we can see growth, which is great, particularly when we have national announcements about the state of the UK economy at the moment. So we can try and get a temperature gauge of what's happening across Havant. I think the bit that we're really interested in exploring with businesses is the finance and grant funding search that we can put people through on this tool. We will do it takes 5 minutes, it's very quick, but essentially we'll put you through a form which tells us a bit about your business, your turnover, what sector you're in, are you linked with universities, is it a woman-led business, and what areas do you operate in, not just geographically, but also is it the green space, is it heavy industry, whatever that might be. And then it puts out a report that links investors and grant providers, which is accessible to you. So we will send that report over to you, and then you can start applying. And the feedback we've had from this so far has been great. I know Andy might talk about Growth Hub and other things that we can signpost to, but I just wanted to let businesses know that on our doorstep right now, for people to come have a conversation with us, we can do this with you and hopefully make a difference. So, like I said, in terms of a slide compared to the other ones talking about some great initiatives, it's a little bit dry, but it's an asset that we use as a team, and I want people to know about it. So I'll hand over to Andy at Inkyhive now. I think you might be on, there we are.
No, it's like going back to old COVID days, isn't it? You're on mute. My wife wished she had a button that she could just press and put me on mute permanently. But anyway, nice to meet you all. My name is Andy. I work with an organisation called Inkyhive. Thanks very much to James and the guys at Havant. We are now able to help local businesses by offering them free support. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second. But as an organisation, we were formed by a complete nutcase. And that's his description, not mine. He's a compulsive entrepreneur, and he also works as a senior lecturer at Winchester University in entrepreneurship. So he knows what he's talking about. and he spotted that there wasn't really enough support for people at that stage, primarily coming out of university. They're full of excitement, enthusiasm, but really didn't know what they're doing, and there was nobody that could help them. So he thought, what we'll do is that we'll make a space where they can actually work from, but then give them the support and guidance that they need. And that's how the company formed. That was quite a few years ago. We have more spaces now scattered around the place. But at the heart of everything we do is just giving support and just trying to make sure that small businesses, business owners, self-employed people have the best possible chance of success. Those of you that watch George Clark's Amazing Spaces, Steve, our founder, was on the last series, is in the last episode. And just to give you an indication, we're not the typical business support organisation where somebody's read a book and they've got all the theory and say, oh yeah, you know, page 27 tells you what you're supposed to do. This is lived experience. I mean, I've run businesses myself. Steve still run businesses. I still run a business. George, our CEO, still runs businesses. So we're living, breathing it every day. Steve, the most recent thing, and the reason that he ended up on TV for this particular programme, was that he spotted that half an aeroplane was available for sale from just university. And so he managed to organise, first of all, buying it and then getting it moved up the motorway. And he's turned it into an Airbnb. So if ever you want a quirky holiday or impress or otherwise somebody, it's just about to open this summer. And it's called the Winchester Mile High Airbnb. So if you're interested in finding out more, have a little Google. You'll learn about that. You'll learn about Steve and all the other mad things he gets involved in. But thankfully, what's come as a result of his brain power is this organisation that thrives, and we've got contracts with. Katie said, "I wonder where the aeroplane had gone." Now you know. So if I could have the next slide, I'll just tell you a little bit about how that has now developed into something that we can offer locally. So we have agreements in place with a number of local authorities, and thankfully Havant's one, which means anybody in the borough or anybody thinking about starting a business in the borough can access free support. And that can be whatever is needed. Some people just need the answer to a question. Other people need complete hand-holding from the beginning. I've got a great idea, but I really haven't got a clue what to do. And we can guide any of those. Existing businesses qualify as well. So if there's an existing business that's maybe hit a brick wall, got obstacles to overcome, we can help just give independent, all confidential support to make sure that they're not doing it alone. Other businesses who want to grow, there's a certain amount of help that we can provide there to get them in the best possible position for growth. But also we're able to signpost. James mentioned the funding tool you have. We're well connected with other support organisations, and there are some that are geared and specialists in either certain subjects or certain stages of business, and so we can act as the conduit. So if you speak to us first, we'll have an independent chat, just talk about your business, what you want to do, so the traditional thing, where are you now, where do you want to be, and how can we get you there. And then if it's not us that are the right people to help you, then I'll make sure that you're put in touch with the people who can. And so if I could have the next slide. And basically, it's just our contact details. Love to hear from anybody in the borough. If you know somebody that's either struggling or succeeding in business or thinking about starting a business, please do put them in touch. It's really easy. It's informal in the first place, but we really do get stuff done, and it does make a marked difference to whether businesses survive, thrive longer term if they get the right support and advice, and hopefully that's us. So that's it.
I just wanted to add as well, Andy, thank you so much for coming on the call. We are doing our best to try and link you with some of our own initiatives as well. Stuart mentioned the shop grant scheme, etc. So if people are applying to some of our grants, then we will automatically direct them to you if they're needing help with things like business plans and forecasting. So it's a really nice way of wrapping everything up.
I'm happy to do it.
Thanks.
Okay, so on to our Havant Business Partnership, which James alluded to at the beginning of the call. So Havant Business Partnership is a joint networking event which is delivered by Havant Borough Council and Havant and South Downs College. The aim of this networking event is to bring together businesses from the Havant Borough and surrounding areas to be able to connect with each other. So we are also connecting our businesses to local organisations, encouraging them to trade locally and learn more about how they can increase their workforce skills. We have been recently focused on relaunching the Havant Business Partnership, reintroducing it to the network. Our last network took place at the West Group. This is an engineering and manufacturing business that's based in Waterlooville. They were keen to be involved and they had a presentation slot that evening. We always endeavour to run our Havant Business Partnership out in our business community, using those businesses to facilitate the sessions. And if any businesses are interested and have a room that will hold around 50 people, then please do get in touch with us. If you do host, then you do automatically get a short presentation slot as well, where you can talk about your business and let them know things that other businesses and organisations locally might want to hear. Our next Havant Business Partnership will be on Thursday, the 14th of March, and this will be at the Horizon Leisure Centre. Horizon Leisure Centre were lucky to win a competition with us at the last partnership. They had a spotlight piece in our newsletter where we deep dive into their business, their offer to the local community, their recruitment process and practice, and also their offer to businesses. So if you come along on this night, you'll get to learn a little bit more about what Horizon are doing to support businesses with their staff and employees' health and well-being. You'll also get to hear a little bit more in depth about our youth employment scheme, and Havant and South Downs College will be bringing along one of their Kickstarters, which was also alluded to earlier, to talk about their experience of that first step into the job market and how businesses can really support the future workforce to increase their skills. As I mentioned, there are around 40 to 50 businesses, organisations, attendees that come to these meetings. So there should be good connections there for you and people that you can meet, like-minded businesses to connect. So I have popped another link. We have got an Eventbrite where you can book your tickets, and I will put another link in the chat in a second to come along, meet the team, meet those other businesses. We look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, and I guess just to package everything up so you get to hear from me again is to talk about our business newsletter. So all of the great things you've just heard about, our events, our offers, the activity that not only is being delivered by the council, but all the things that the council are trying to facilitate and commission. We talk about these things in our newsletter, which is circulated on the first Friday of every month. And it's a great way of staying in touch to find out about business related matters across Havant. So as Hannah mentioned, we spotlight our local businesses to really celebrate them. There are so many and they're so vast and ever changing that if we can celebrate and demonstrate how they connect into our community as well as can serve our wider business community, we really want to enable that for them. We also talk about business support. We talk about skills and recruitment, funding and investment, and it's just a nice way for businesses to keep up to date with everything that's happening on a monthly basis. So if this is something that you want to regularly be involved with, particularly if some of the offers may not suit you now, but in future, I'm sure there's going to be offers and events that suit you later, I would absolutely encourage you to scan the QR code that is on the screen. To scan the QR code, you just hold your phone up using the camera and you can click the link and you will instantly be able to subscribe. If you're unable because you don't have access to your phone at the moment, there is a link embedded in this presentation to click on to head to our council website to subscribe that way. But I hope you will consider joining because I think there's a lot of great updates to come. I'm going to pass over to James now to just wrap up the webinar.
Amazing. Thank you, Katie. As Hannah said earlier, we are going to, I think it was Hannah, it might have been Katie, my apologies, but we are going to be sending the slides out, but we are also going to be putting the link to this webinar on our newsletter as well. There's been some amazing stuff talked about today, and again, linking it back to the Portsmouth South Coast Business Week, you know, the inform, inspire, invest and interact. I think we've given opportunities across those, and that's not just with an airplane in somebody's garden. That was definitely new information for me, so thank you, Andy. But honestly, if you are interested in engaging with our youth service in any shape or form, or you want to help start getting involved in the sector-based work academies, our email is right there, economic_development@havant.gov.uk. We welcome any form of inquiry and really want to get to know you and work with you. So thank you very much for your time today. And I want to thank our guest speakers, Stuart and Andy, for coming along, and to the team for giving such great information. Thank you very much for your time.